Big-time shot making by the Pacers here in the last couple minutes.
And Ivy hits a three. It's tied up at 106 with a minute left.
I've seen teams give in to circumstances that are less than what we're dealing with.
White, who is all alone for the easy two. The Pistons have lived all night long on the offensive glass. They may just have died by it.
It takes a lot of character and integrity to do what they're doing.
That'll do it. So the Boston Celtics needed overtime to get by the Detroit Pistons. A valiant effort.
Wow, the Pistons' 28th straight loss, already the longest single-season losing streak in NBA history. But there is some silver lining because it's not the worst ever. The 76ers also lost 28 straight from the end of the 2014-2015 season to the start of the 2015-2016 season. However, another loss wouldn't just break a tie for the longest losing streak in NBA history. With a loss against the Raptors tomorrow night, the Pistons would own the longest losing streak ever across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball. But part of the puzzling thing here is they aren't getting blown out in every game. Detroit is 1-13 in clutch time games this season, which includes 12 during this losing streak, where the score was within 5 points in the final 5 minutes of the game. In those games, they've shot just 23.3% in clutch time, the worst in the NBA this season, and on pace to be the worst by any team since 1996-1997. And according to ESPN Analytics, it doesn't look like the Pistons are going to snap this streak anytime soon. Detroit is not favored to win another game until January 10th in a home game against the currently 5-25 Spurs. Their 57% chance to win that game is their highest remaining chance to win it all this season. It's also just one of 4 remaining games where they are favored to win. I don't want to be pessimistic, Tim Bontemps, but I don't know how else to put this as Tim joins us now. And I know you were at that Pistons game last night, so close against the Celtics. What was the mood of the team after nearly breaking that historic losing streak?
Well, Shay, I understand you not wanting to be pessimistic, but we are talking about a team that has lost 28 games in a row. So I do think it's fair to not be able to find a lot of silver linings. But that was what made the post-game scene last night pretty interesting at TD Garden in Boston, because as you mentioned, obviously a thrilling game. The Pistons up by 19 at halftime. They fight back at the end of regulation to get the game to overtime against the best team in the NBA, a team that was undefeated at home. So losing that game in overtime when you're the worst team in the league is not really that bad of an outcome, right? In a vacuum. You look at that as it's a progression forward as far as your team is going. But when you've lost 27 games in a row and you're that close to snapping that streak, it made for a scene where everyone was happy with the way they had played and the progress they see that they are making on the court. This is a team that has now lost 5 relatively close games in a row. But as you said, they've lost a bunch of these games in clutch time, and they have not been able to break through yet. So we'll see what happens in that game tomorrow in Detroit. One possible silver lining looking ahead to that one. Toronto is in Boston tonight playing the Celtics. They'll be on the second night of a back-to-back. Detroit can have any sort of effort like they did against Boston. They might have a chance to snap that streak Saturday night at home.
Yeah, it feels like that. I mean, just so close with the Pistons with only a 30% chance to win against the Raptors tomorrow night. That's according to our ESPN analytics. All right, tonight, though, here, let's get to some optimism, maybe. The Suns will get Bradley Beal back in the lineup against the Hornets after missing over 2 weeks with a sprained ankle. Beal has only played in 6 games, and that Suns trio of Beal, Durant, and Booker have played just 1 game together so far this season. And so, Tim, how important is Beal's return for Phoenix going forward?
Well, it's massive, obviously, Shay, to get all 3 of these guys together on the court. Because as you've seen through the first 2 months of the year, as you laid out, they've only been on the court 1 time. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets earlier this month before Bradley Beal sprained that ankle in the next game against the Knicks. And frankly, with the injury histories of all 3 of those guys over the past several years, it's not surprising that injuries have caused them to miss some time. So the Suns would love to get all 3 of those guys out there on the court together for an extended period to get them all some rhythm and rotations together on the court, to see what they need to do to maximize those guys. But regardless of Bradley Beal coming back, Shay, the Suns have to get a lot better at the defensive end of the court. Phoenix right now sits 18th in the league in defensive rating. And typically when you look at contending teams for championships, which is where the Suns believe they are going to be, you want to be in the top 10 in both categories. That's typically where you see championship level teams. You certainly see championship level teams in the top 10 in defense. And Bradley Beal, for all of his gifts, is not a guy that's going to make a huge difference at that end. So it's going to take Frank Vogel scheming some things up to get the Suns back where they need to be at that end of the court.
Yeah, Tim, and if they want to be a contender when all is said and done, sitting at 15-15 on the season and 10th in the West is not going to do it. So they need to shore things up on the defensive end, as you said. Tim Bontemps, thank you.